This episode is brought to you by the RVA Podcast Network. Find more information at rvapodcast.org.
We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such. What's good, y'all? It's season 5 of the Past BT Pod with your host, BT. We have a new season here, and it's time to get this show going. As you all know, we talk about sports. Sports won't be as big of a carrier this year. I think we'll be carrying more towards the stuff, and predominantly on the sports side, you'll be hearing more from the musical aspect, but we will still be talking about technical. We'll be giving you the video game content. I will still be going over the ass of the week. We'll definitely be passing the message. You'll be getting an angel number, and you'll get quite a few gems. So sit back, relax, take your time, don't waste your time. This is the Past BT with your host, Brian. What's going on, y'all? What's good? Episode 316 of The Past is here. I've been back and forth with whether I was going to do this show, but I want to go ahead and get some content in. I still have a show that I am getting in the works to happen within the next few days. I don't want to get too far ahead of that, but I did want to at least come on and give you all this episode because there was a lot that has happened since we last did a show last Thursday. So I will update y'all. Well, before I do that, first, as you all may or may not know, I am BT, aka Brian T, your host, your MC with the most, and I have had a somewhat change in schedule. My days off switched up a little bit, but it switched for the better. So I wanted to go ahead and continue the routine. I will go ahead and let you know that the shows should be a little more consistent down the road, where I will actually be able to record more on the weekends, which means you will get the shows Saturday, if not Sunday. We'll be getting a solidified process down for that. I did get a new opportunity presented to me, which is amazing. I'm not sure if I talked about that on the last show, but that will open up some opportunities for how I plan to record upcoming shows. And I'm gonna adjust a little bit because I'm trying out some more. As you all may or may not know, I'm always finding that way to be a little more creative with how I present my audio. So if it sounds better, if it sounds a little different, let me know. Hopefully you all can hear me just fine. But we're not going to adhere very strongly to the listening. We're going to adhere more to the content and what you all come for, which is getting updates on what is going on in the sports, tech, news, music, and gaming world. And I will present those things accordingly in as best of an order as possible. As I always like to do, we will go ahead and start with our angel number. We are on episode 316, which means our angel number is going to be number 316. And while I'm getting that prepared, getting some little bit of hydration. Hadn't done a show in a minute, so might be a little bit of a catch up for me in a sense. We're going to talk about the angel number 316 in just a sec. The significance of the angel number 316. You've been wondering what is so special about the number 316, why it keeps popping up almost everywhere. What is significant? What is its significance in your life? Well, look no further, because you will find out here what is special about this particular angel number. The reason you keep seeing the number all around you is that it is a message being communicated to you. There are things in this life that are in abundance, but at the same time very rare. One of those things is love. It is natural for a person to want to find love from other people. The first message from this angel number 316 is to build that love from within. By learning to love and appreciate yourself will make it easy for you to do the same with other people. And people around you will also find it easy to reciprocate the same feeling to you, because you already have it in plenty and it is flowing from you easily. Angel number 316 meaning shows that when you give a helping hand, the rules of the universe will apply. When the time comes and you are in need, the same favor will be given to you. The attributes associated with number 3 is kindness, being optimistic and bringing forth your views so as to be understood. Number 1 is telling you to start that new project that you've been longing for. Start a new and different chapter in your life while making use of your creative mind. The things that are dear to you, like your family and friends, your career, and the projects that you have taken time to work on. Number 6 is attributed to your possessions. At times we stagnate in a particular place, not because we lack the expertise, but because we refuse to use our skills and talents. The message from angel number 316 is, in order for you to see that shift and change in your life, you must be ready to take risks and use your skills, talent, as well as your creative mind, so that things will start moving for you in the right direction. The messages from angel number 316 is for you to get out of your comfort zone. Make use of your creative mind, because your creativity is what will make things work for you. As usual, your spirit angels will guide you at all times. And I'm sharing this quote or sharing this message because I'm in amazement of how sometimes things can align themselves unbeknownst to us. And this is a perfect example of this, because I am, a lot of you may or may not have heard me share these before or present this from my platform, but I have been following a Instagram page called Moonaments, which they give different messages, different thoughts, ideas on from the astrological standpoint. And I will be the first to admit that the last couple of weeks, I almost want to say months, they've been able to call me out when I'm not in a position or in a mood to be called out. I always will find what they present for the Virgo messages. And yesterday, the one that was presented was for Virgo quirks. Some of these aren't to a T, but a lot of them are very noticeable, because I'm one of those people who does this unknowingly. Like, I'm doing it now by being very fidgety, which is why I'm always keeping some form of a fidget accessory or device, which for me has always been, if you've been listening or keep up with the show for a while, you always hear me reference the koosh ball. Long but simple story behind that, and I'll share that. Matter of fact, I'm gonna share it now. Then we'll get into our quirks, and I'm gonna talk about the angel number reference. The koosh ball reference, and this is random, but hey, y'all know I'm always give y'all a little minutia, a little piece of information on how stuff got started or get started with me. When I was younger, I had a basketball court in like an indoor court. And the court that I specifically had at that time, I can remember because it was a koosh ball, a koosh based brand. It had the backboard, it had the rim, and the net was a little different because it wasn't your regular type of net. It was actually a net that was for kind of like when you would shoot the ball into it, the ball, instead of it actually going straight through, it would get stuck and you had to reach up and take it out of the net. It was that type of image. I almost am inclined to make that the image of this podcast just for fun. Between that, or I may share the link in the show notes related to that specific product. But anywho, I share that because I've always had an attachment to koosh balls, and from that time up until now. Even one of the companies that I work for, before I continue, I'm not sponsored by Koosh, so don't think that I'm like trying to get a deal. But I do, I was working at a company, and when I first started there, at the time, I always, again, had that little fidget moment, and I had one of these on my desk when we were in our training session, and one of my training one of my training friends, who I'm actually still friends with to this day, was sitting beside me and noticed that I had this, and they were like, "Hey, I want one," and I'm like, "Okay, sure, whatever." And I think people kind of caught on to the trend because everyone had one at their desk or wanted one at some point. I didn't get every single person one, obviously, but I did end up getting a couple of people one who wanted one or preferred to have one. And I always know that I have this one that I have now, which is blue and green. And I think I had another one. It's here in my room somewhere that was orange and yellow. So the correlation of sticking with that has always been anytime I would record, because it's not loud. And it relates to, is relevant to the podcast for a reason. Because it wasn't very loud, it's something that I could have in my hand. You all never hear it, but it also still kept me focused on what I was talking about, or was my way of coming back to where I'm going or what I was addressing. So I wanted to bring that up because I know a lot of times we'll say, yeah, we'll get into that later. No, we're going to talk about it now. So I wanted to share that and give that information, but I'm also going to give the Virgo quirks, which were from the Moonman's Instagram page. Picks on skin or nails or frivels with hair when nervous. Feels best in clean and organized spaces, but is a slob when sad or depressed. That is definitely a space that I'm working to get out of as we speak. Can quickly fix a problem. I am guilty of being the problem solver, and a book that I found or attached myself to about the 4 disciplines of execution ties into that very clearly, about finding the how and avoiding the other tangibles, the what, where, when, why, and who. Things hard before speaking. Anyone that knows me knows I will spend a lot of time being in the algorithmic state to avoid having the actual conversation at times. At times, adorably clumsy, which I think is a funny one. And finally, is polite until they feel attacked or in danger. When attacked, I am very far from nice or pleasant. And anyone who immediately knows that will attest to that. So I brought that up, adding that to it. Based on my creative engines and me realizing that I have to and need to get out of my comfort zone, it's been very important to look at where or how things have come into or been a part of my life over the last few years. So I'm definitely adhering to and grasping very close to the angel number for this episode. We're going to get on sports, and I will, before I talk about the first topic, I have now come up with a new reference that I've shared with some coworkers, but also as a fun reference that a lot of people won't understand. It is called 6 points in 7 seconds. I will give the condensed version of it, but I'm going to save the full version of the story when we get to one of our asses of the week. And he didn't intend to be an ass of the week, but he earned it based on an activity, and we'll get there when we get there. The Washington Wizards played the Brooklyn Nets. It was a very close game nearing the end, and the ending led to Bradley Beal hitting a 3, and following him hitting a 3, the ball was inbounded. It did not land to that person's teammate, which then led to a turnover, to then go to the person who got the steal, handing it off or passing it over to Westbrook, who hits another three. And all of this happened within a 7-second turnaround, which was able to give Washington the lead and the victory of that game. So I wanted to give you all that timeline just to kind of give an idea of how basketball has been going in this very unique climate. And we're going to go into some information related to that as well. One game that recently occurred has now generated a new term to be known as sideline Karen, which I almost would make her the cover art, but as one of the mods in Clubhouse has mentioned, we do not want to give her any more attention than she deserves. So I am with that, and I am not going to do so, though we're going to talk about this story. The Atlanta Hawks played the LA Lakers in Atlanta. Atlanta was doing what we would consider as a trial run for something that could be an idea for this upcoming All-Star game, which I'm going to get to as well. I will read this article and we'll go into kind of the aftermath of it as well. In the middle of what was an incredible rally for the Los Angeles Lakers on Monday night, a couple of fans sitting courtside in the middle of a pandemic, no less, decided they wanted to become part of the show and verbally confronted LeBron James. James responded and didn't appear too bothered, though bothered enough to say something by the conduct of two women sitting courtside, including one who pulled her mask down in order to yell. The conduct of the two fans courtside resulted in them being ejected from the game and escorted from the sideline. The moment also recalled this classic moment or meme from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, which they show the infamous person who's yelling at the cat, and they made mockery of putting those pieces together. The fans were taken from their seats shortly after as the referees called Hawk security to take care of the situation. Of course, the bigger question is why fans are allowed to sit courtside anywhere in the NBA, particularly on the same night the NBA had yet another game postponed. Monday night's Nuggets-Pistons was the 23rd postponed game so far this season. And this is from the LeBron Wire. So this article gives some of the context, but it kind of like I kind of gave you the simple play-by-play. Because the fan got very adamant to the point of standing up, taking off their mask, it presenting what could be a bigger risk, which we are trying to avoid, which is what's known as a super outbreak. If you aren't sure what that means, that would basically refer to having fans at a game, or having people, I wouldn't say fans, but having people in an area expose multiple people at an area and causing a larger outbreak that could then lead to a possibility of people potentially getting COVID and leading that to more people getting COVID. If we do recall or remember, I think it was in March of last year when Rudy Gobert, did the whole thing against the microphone, and then it turned out that he had COVID. Donovan Mitchell had COVID. It's an interesting turnaround because we saw that happen at that time, and here it is now. You have the Jazz as like the top team in the West. So that's just showing you how this all has come full circle. To continue the story, they did confirm that there would be no arena ban for the fans who were ejected after the heckling incident. They did open an investigation regarding this. One of the fans posted on social media after the incident that she was ejected. She posted the apology. She posted the apology post following a Insta story rant of what happened. And I say this all the time, and I need people to really grasp this this theory or analogy. Timing is impeccable. Let me repeat that again for those who may or may not realize what I just said. Timing is impeccable. I've always talked about the book, The Four Agreements, and the first agreement that always sticks with me is be impeccable with your word. Being impeccable requires you really thinking things through and being considerate of all parties involved. Timing is impeccable because when this occurred could not have been any worse of a time. And I'm saying that or bringing that to the forefront because this is leading up to the NBA trying to get the All-Star game in, of all places, Atlanta. This was talked about in Clubhouse as well, in the group that I'm in. If you're not doing so or have not done so, look up NBA on CH if you have access to Clubhouse and check it out. Like I'm doing a proper plug because it is definitely content that they get into that a lot of times, because of my schedule or because of the routine, I'm usually just able to kind of sound whore and listen in as best as I can. But I have to be honest in saying that they give a lot of information on basketball. But they were talking about this, and one of the mods, Fayola, brought up a great point that I think needs to be said, and I'm using this because it's what we need to look at with this story. This was a white woman with her friends or comrades on the sideline getting a seat that they really should not have had, being that we're in a pandemic, and they utilize that space to cause such a outroar or a bigger picture to be presented, because if any players were to have tested positive for COVID, it would be a very huge concern for what the NBA is trying to do with bringing the All-Star game to Atlanta. And I might have mentioned this earlier, but I want to make sure I bring this up again. They had fans sidelined at this Atlanta game because Atlanta is doing this as an opportunity to try out what they're looking to do for the upcoming All-Star game on March the 7th, of having fans get the opportunity to still sit courtside. Because let's face it, the NBA does not want to lose any money if they can help it. Any revenue or any income is good income, because the only thing worse than good income is no money or no fans. So to have a fan do this or have this incident occur brings about a bigger picture and draws about a bigger concern that now we have to look at it as, hey, this one person has ruined it for all fans. We need to go back to the virtual option. This was brought up as well. Golden State is doing what makes sense. Do the virtual fan thing. When we had the NBA bubble, you did the virtual fans. It was fine. If you want to still offer like a monetary sum for getting that ability to be on screen, cool. But you don't need the fans physically in the arena. Like even LeBron stated himself, like he valued that interaction, but it's the interaction isn't the concern. The willingness to feel as though, hey, I'm at this basketball game, I can walk up to this person and do said thing. And I know I'm throwing a lot of hypotheticals, but let's also be realistic for a moment. Let's say she walks out on the court and causes some form of harm, either if not to him, but anyone on the court, or causes harm to herself. And then it turns into, I'm going to sue the NBA and all this other stuff. And it's like, you got to be able to think about the bigger picture and not make it about yourself. And that was what this incident showed me more than anything else. So the fan, like I said, I'm not stating her name for the sake of this convo. The one reference that I will make that I still think is funny is that they literally had, when they showed the two young ladies, they referenced them as like a great value version of Paris and Nicole. And I just could not unsee it because it was so valid to fitting what was witnessed during that game. I talked about this already, but I will go ahead and give the actual article the attention that the NBA Players Union, the NBA and the Players Union are coming together to work on a deal to have the All-Star game be on March 7th in Atlanta. Now, I don't have it on this article, but the window or the option is open where they're looking to also add in the 3-point shootout and the dunk contest. I'm going to be honest with you. Both of those can go. We do not need a dunk contest. We do not need a 3-point shootout. I don't see the purpose of having either one of them to that extreme. Now, if you want it, and I'm backtracking a little bit, and I did not get the article for this because I didn't hear a lot of rumble from the Pro Bowl that the NFL did. I know they mentioned Kyler Murray won the MVP, but they really didn't give it a lot of attention, which I was somewhat surprised by, but also taken aback a little bit in noticing how it was treated. Pressing through that and kind of presenting it all for what it is. I also think of the Pro Bowl did the option, or the NFL did the option of doing Madden. I don't see why the NBA couldn't have done NBA 2K and still gotten a similar result, especially in knowing the fact that the NBA has fans and has solid support to get that information out about the game. But I will say this. Having it at State Farm Arena could be a great thing by far. I just don't know how many fans they're going to have there. And I'm even still putting in or factoring in this situation occurring. I'm laughing at something that somebody just sent me, but it's a super insider joke. But all of that being the case, I just hope that this fan has not ruined this opportunity. The formal agreement has not been finalized, but the NBA and the National Basketball Players Association have been working through the details of a scaled down event that centers on transporting players in and out of Atlanta in a significantly shorter window of time than what would be required of a typical All-Star weekend. The NBA and union are increasingly confident that enough of the league's top players are willing to participate during a tight midseason break in this condensed pandemic schedule. Outside of the conference and NBA finals, the All-Star game is traditionally at the top of fan engagement for the league. And they're just kind of looking at that as being a very resourceful and impactful thing for the NBA. I am upset a little bit because I think there was one other article that I wanted to get that I don't have, but I will freestyle it a little bit. The NBA is implementing a mask. They're being a lot more enforceful with the mask policy based on what recently occurred. And let's see if I think this might be the article. Let's see. The NBA is trying to crack down on its COVID-19 rules in an effort to prevent more games being postponed. The league reportedly told all 30 teams it will begin to enforce face mask rules during games starting Friday. The league said it will impose penalties on both players and staff members who do not comply with the policy. The news comes a day after the NBA postponed a contest between the Denver Nuggets and Detroit Pistons due to a contact tracing as a result of a positive or inclusive COVID-19 test. As I mentioned already, this is the 23rd postponement. Under the new protocols, the league will require players and staff to wear K95 or KNF94 masks, according to ESPN. The league is working to get those type of masks sent to teams. At this point, coaches, players, and staff can only wear KN95 or KN94 masks. The league won't fully enforce that policy until it is sure all 30 teams have the proper masks. The NBA still plans to start enforcing more strict mask rules on Friday. Coaches, players, and staff are required to wear masks while sitting on the bench during games. They have to do anything possible to find the proper way to get this under control, and I have no problem with this. After months away, the NBA relaunched in the Orlando bubble. No player. This part of this article that I just found is why this is important. When they initially had this occur, so the NBA has been under scrutiny for attempting to hold the 2020-21 season under normal circumstances during the COVID-19 pandemic. The league took a different approach last season, postponing play after Rudy Gobert tested positive in March. After months away, the NBA relaunched in the Orlando bubble. No player tested positive for COVID-19 while in the bubble. Why am I putting emphasis on that particular part of the article? Well, the reason that is important or very relevant to look at is because you had a controlled and manageable area for players to play. Players traveling, players doing what they're going to do in their activities, it heightens the risk of getting COVID. Three perfect examples of this are college football, college basketball, and the NFL. The NFL even has gone on record or will be going as far as having fans and cardboard cutouts and first responders at the Super Bowl. You do not, having fans at a game is not the end of the world. But for business, it is. I don't know if I mentioned this already, but I'm going to share it again because I believe I did talk about it for the national championship game. Ohio State played in a championship game with a 7-0 record because some of the teams that they were to play against, or even their team themselves, weren't able to play due to COVID. I get that it's money, y'all, but come on. Like, fans shouldn't be risking it that heavily. Teams and sports should not be risking it that heavily. I didn't get this article in, but I did talk about college basketball in this conversation. College basketball has already mentioned or looked to go the bubble route for the tournament, which is going to require consistent daily tests. This also then leads about an even bigger question. And this is me just talking, so if it sounds off, my bad, but it's always how I am with an unorthodox approach to something. With the vaccine being provided, and we're going through the tiers and the stages of the vaccine being given, where will this place athletes? And when I say athletes, I'm going down the line. Pee-wee, middle school, high school, junior college, D2, D3, D1, NBA, NFL, NCAA. Obviously NCAA is everyone. Hockey, baseball. Where and how does this all, how will they be prioritizing it in that plateau? And will that make as big of an impact on how will possibly be provided? And it's just a thought. It's just something that I'm kind of just in an open dialogue, just talking about in general. I really I know that they're going to try to do what's best, but a lot of times people do what's in the best interest of the money. So I don't ignore or downplay that piece or portion whatsoever. It's humanly impossible not to do so. So I'll just leave that at that. In the WNBA, and forgive me, well, no, matter of fact, I'm good because I can talk about that in the soccer section. We had 33 minutes. In the WNBA, the free agency window occurred. It wasn't as stapled or as monumental as I expected, but it happened. A lot of players were traded, and there were quite a few transactions. One that stood out for me personally is Candace Parker. Candace Parker is no longer with the Los Angeles Sparks. She's played for them for 13 years. She will be going to the Chicago Sky. They were trying to retain her. The opportunity to return to her hometown and play in front of friends and family for the last portion of her career was too appealing for her to pass up. She is 34. She played in all 22 of the Sparks games in the 2020 season and finished third in MVP voting. She's the only player in league history to win MVP and Rookie of the Year honors in the same season. She also was MVP in 2013 and Finals MVP in 2016. She's averaged 17 points and 9 boards for her career. She's won 2 NCAA championships in 07 and 08. Also, another member of the Sparks, Nneka Ogwumike, has agreed to a multi-year deal to remain with the team. And Ogwumike was the 2016 season MVP and president of the Players Union Executive Committee, which is similar to the franchise tag of the NFL. She was given core designation by the Sparks, which is similar to the franchise tag in the NFL. I definitely wish her, I'm thinking she's going to do pretty good with this guy. Depends on what team they have. I'm not sure. I don't think Michelle's, it's another volunteer, Lady Vol there, but I can't remember who it is right offhand. Anywho, Dustin Pedroia has officially announced retirement. He has not played since 2019 due to a knee injury that he suffered 2 years earlier. He kind of looked for a different way to be able to end his career, but he thought this was the best option. I always tell my teammates that you never know if the game is going to start early. My biggest thing in my mind was that this could be my last game, and you don't know. That's the best way I approached it from Little League on. I had the best time playing. As recently as January 2020, Pedroia planned to return to the baseball field, working with the Red Sox training camp to rehabilitate his knee. After waking up one morning with his knee once again swelling, he learned that he would need a partial knee replacement. Due to the pandemic, the surgery was delayed until December of last year. I wasn't in a good place. I grinded every day just to be able to play with my kids and just have a normal life. My knee was bad, and I'm a young guy. I had the surgery, and a week later, I could tell I could walk without the pain. I could do everything except run. I can't run anymore. But who needs that? Once I had the surgery, nobody had ever played with a partial knee replacement. If it breaks, my life would be severely impacted by it. He then went on to say it wasn't physically possible for me to continue to play baseball with a partial knee replacement. So once I got it done, I knew. He is 37, four-time All-Star who was named AL Rookie of the Year in 07, AL MVP in 08, played all 17 years with the Red Sox organization. He won 3 World Series rings and was a 4-time Gold Glove winner. If you do or do not remember or don't recall, the Red Sox were able to reverse it. it was a very interesting time in baseball for about 5 or 10 years, because you had the Red Sox reversing their curse, you had the Cubs reversing their curse, and the Red Sox were the bigger story, because the Red Sox would always get there but wouldn't get there. And it would always be the Yankees, the Cleveland baseball team. I almost messed that up, my man. The Cleveland baseball team. Different teams were in their way. The Florida Marlins. There were so many teams that would stop them from getting to that next level, or getting the actual championship. Well, I'm sorry, getting the pennant. So he was there to see them get there first, as well as get 2 more during his tenure. So Pedroia was definitely a good overall player. His hitting average was .303. He hit over 1,000, had over 1,000 hits. His on base, he had 112 stolen bases, 560 runs, and 436 RBIs. And he was one of the best to do it at second base. So huge props to Dustin Pedroia and his play with the Boston Red Sox. So our next few stints of stories, we're still on sports at the 40-minute mark. So I'm gonna not really rush through all of these, but I'm gonna talk about break this all down, because a lot of stuff happened in stuff and in tech. So I want to make sure I give every piece of information its proper time and shine. I'm probably going to mispronounce his name, but Zdeno Chara had his hockey sticks sent to a man in New Jersey. Now, this could have been an Ass of the Week, but the Ass of the Week is going to be a shoe-in. One of them is a shoe-in. The other one, it's unjustifiable, but justifiable. And you'll see what I mean when we get there. Ariel Ben Abraham ripped open a shipping box from China on Monday, expecting to find accessories for his clothing company. Instead, he found a bundle of jumbo-sized hockey sticks intended for Washington Capitals star Zdeno Chara that had been randomly delivered to a baseball fan in suburban New Jersey. This has to take the cake as the strangest thing I've gotten by mistake. This is stated by Ben Abraham. Future Hall of Famer sticks for the tallest player in NHL history. That's crazy. Those odds don't even make sense. His photos of the shipment from True Hockey went viral on Monday. The Capitals said they were aware of a mix-up between the manufacturer and the shipping company, and that the mistake was being taken care of. This is not something I thought I'd be dealing with, said Corey Gregory, who is True Hockey Trade's marketing manager for North America. We aren't sure how it happened. Somehow they ended up at this young man's house. And they go on to just give some information about this. I just thought it was funny because they were hockey sticks for an actual hockey player sent to a person who now has these hockey sticks that he could practically sell almost. But then the company is then put in a position to have to resell or reship the correct sticks for the player. So I thought it was just a cool story that came up on my timeline today. 2 more sports stories and then we'll jump into stuff. And this is what I was going to mention earlier. The loan or the transfer window for soccer was it happened, but there weren't any like huge, as we call it in basketball world, there weren't many splashes or any big like, oh man, did you see so and so when no one really went on loan or really went to another team that stood out or really caught anyone's attention. So reading this or sharing this article is like, yes, it happened, but it didn't happen with like a huge amount of follow-up. I know even with Chelsea, I think we did like one loan. We sent someone on loan to another Premier League team, but even that person who went over was a younger player, but I haven't even seen him play any in the Premier League rotation. So didn't really do anything massive for me, or I mean, it really didn't have like much of a massive conversation to begin with. One soccer or football athlete who got paid is Neymar. He has agreed to a 4-year contract extension with PSG. The negotiations started a couple of months ago. His contract was expected to expire in June of next year, and now he will be able to be with the team until 2026. Do they give they slick? They don't give us the deal. I may have to go to another site and find it, because I wonder how much he got paid. I'm curious. Hang tight, y'all, because I want to see what his numbers look like. Neymar contract. They really don't tell us how much the deal was. Yeah, constantly the one team. 267. Neymar turns 29. Yeah, so we're not getting the exact amount yet. Sorry for that. And I didn't mean to like give y'all that white noise section, but I want to see if maybe someone might have accidentally given that amount, but they haven't said what the exact deal will consist of. But hey, get your money, man. And I mean, like I said, he's what, 29? He'll be 29 tomorrow, or in 2 days. If it's there, go for it. Like I mentioned this earlier, even talking with basketball, it's a business. So I totally get it by far. Anyone who has been patient in waiting for college football to be back in the video game circuit, your wish might be granted. EA Sports is in the game for college football. They're coming back. After the last college football game they made was in 2013. Daryl Holt, who is the vice president and GM, stated to ESPN the game maker will be returning to the space with EA Sports College Football. It will be brought back. There's not a date on the table when it will return, or even a date when the return will be announced, other than it won't be coming back for this year. So we do have it coming, and that is, a sign of hope. To make the game happen, EA Sports partnered with collegiate licensing company CLC to make sure it had the FBS schools, traditions, uniforms, and playbooks, among other things, ready to go for the game. Over 100 teams will be in the game. For now, EA Sports is planning to move forward without rosters that include the names, images, or likenesses of real college players. Current NCAA rules prohibit athletes from selling their NIL rights while in college. However, those rules are likely to be changed at some point in the coming year by the NCAA, state legislatures, or Congress. It's not yet clear whether the evolving rules will allow for the kind of group licensing arrangements that would be needed for EA Sports to negotiate with athletes to use their names in the game. I could read this and give more insight, but the easiest statement or response to give to this, if you know or realize or remember it, the O'Bannon brothers were a big part of this. This story was, is, and will forever be viral. I don't even want to say the term viral, but it became a huge mark on college football, or on college sports as a whole, in having their information to be used and the athlete not be paid. I personally think that something will be coming down the pike soon to benefit athletes, because right now the athletes there has been the talk, which I think we did talk about on the show before, of players earning or receiving a stipend when playing. So getting this to be a new thing or a new idea draws about an even bigger conversation for the podcast. But I'm not even saying for the podcast, for the sports community. What this also brings up, which no one is really going to say anything about yet, this is being done for college football. give it a couple years, I could see college basketball coming back, which would either mean you're getting March Madness or you could be getting College Hoops 2K. Which personally, if I had to pick between the two, give me College Hoops 2K. If I could get a copy of College Hoops 2K8 to play on my Xbox One, I would be happy right now. I'm just being very honest and openly transparent in saying that. So those are all of the things that have been going on or are going on in the sports world. And sharing that last story kind of integrated sports and stuff together. And our first information and stuff is probably one that really became a very trendy topic on the internet. And that is that Jeff Bezos stepped down from Amazon. Or he will be, and I'm getting ahead of it because it's coming, but he will be stepping down as CEO of Amazon. It will be in the third quarter of this year, so you're looking at about July, August, and Andy Jassy will be taking over as the next CEO. Which means, starting now, up until June and July, Bezos will be giving him the idea of what a day-to-day routine will look like for Amazon. A lot of people are probably wondering why he is choosing to do this. In the exec chair role, I intend to focus my energies and attention on new products and early initiatives. Andy is well known inside the company and has been at Amazon almost as long as I have. In reading or looking at what the article states, or from what Bezos presented, it sounds like Bezos intends to use the time he has outside of running Amazon's day-to-day operations to focus on other initiatives, including the Day One Fund, the Bezos Earth Fund, Blue Origin, the Washington Post, and other passions. Despite stepping down from the top role at Amazon, Bezos says this isn't about retiring, so it seems we can expect him to remain involved at the top of the company. So he's going to be hands-on, but he's going to kind of step back. And this is probably a reach of a statement, but I think he's going to be taking on the same process that Bill Gates has with Microsoft and kind of almost what Jobs had with Apple before Tim Cook eventually, became the guy. I won't be surprised. And this is an early projection. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not me putting rumors out in the open. It's just things to kind of watch and really pay attention to. Bill Gates stepped back. We knew what time it was. Steve Jobs stepped back. Tim came in. I think Tim is going to step back at some point. I don't know when, but I would not be surprised if it's within the next couple of years. And Bezos stepping back. Elon, I'm going to talk about him in a moment, but Elon, I can see him stepping back soon. It's these guys are all multi-million, and I'm sitting here saying million, but they're all billionaires in their own right. And they're involved in different plateaus and different forums to give information as well as be informative of the knowledge that's available. This is going to probably be an early pass the message at the 52-minute mark, but I'm sharing it because I need you all to understand this. Utilize, and I'm saying this primarily to Black men and women, utilize the knowledge that is available to you. I'm going to repeat that again. Utilize the knowledge that is available to you. That does not mean run out and buy books and learn stuff. Value the resources you have from others around you and value the resources that are at your fingertips. We all have smart devices and we all use them very minimal. The average person scrolls their life away on social media, which might lead to a good passing message. I'm going to save that. I'm going to sit on that. But Bezos is stepping down, so I'm definitely commending him and wishing him success on his upcoming choices and options with the company. He's still going to be part of Amazon. Like, that much won't change. if he, even with him leaving or not leaving Amazon, their stock is still going to be high. Just keep that in mind. Joe Budden joins Patreon. So I'm adding this article since I did get this from listening to a snippet of Joe's podcast today. But from the point of Joe leaving, so Joe Budden is now going to bring his podcast to Patreon. He's joining the company as giving and has been provided a title of Head of Creator Equity. Joe says it on his show. He's tangented about it enough. He is for, by, and supportive of the creators. The creators and the creatives are what makes the world move. Everyone will probably think differently, but if you really look at what is going on right now, even if you look at what happened with the stock markets, creatives were involved with that. That ticked off and kicked off on a Reddit page. Just keep that in your thought process for a little bit. 5 months after yanking his blockbuster shows from Spotify amid a dispute over compensation, podcasting powerhouse Joe Budden is partnering with another subscription platform that's promising artists more leverage. His signature, The Joe Budden Podcast with Rory and Mal and The Joe Budden Network, will now be hosted on Patreon, the company announced today, February 3rd. Budden will also take on the title of Patreon's Head of Creative Equity, a new advisory role that will have him focused on making sure creators on the platform have an equal seat at the table. The podcast industry has seen a number of major shows shift platforms in recent years, kicked off by the Joe Budden Podcast with Rory and Mal, locking into an exclusive pact with Spotify in 2018. Spotify, which committed to spending $500 million in 2019 to build up its podcasting division, inked exclusive deals with Barack and Michelle Obama, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and Joe Rogan, sending its share price up 8% on the date it was announced. Apple launched a podcast with Oprah's Book Club in September, with talks of future paid podcast subscription services circling both companies. And Amazon, never to be left out, has launched its own state of exclusive podcast featuring DJ Khaled and Will Smith. Don't let all the big name podcasters scare you from your dreams. There might be another message to give y'all, but I'm not going to read this article to its entirety. Please read it at your own leisure. If you need to pause, check out what's going on with him making this move with Patreon. Podcasters, and I had to learn this the hard way. When I first did podcasting, I never expected it to be what it is now. Now I am to a point where literally, even if I was in a library doing it, being at home is even better, but being able to just crack open my laptop, turn my microphone, put my microphone on the stand, get a good little ambiance. It has become a routine for me that I don't take for granted. And I've even had people who have given compliments or given feedback or stated things that have made me understand how important and how impactful my words and my messages are with this space. So I don't at any point take it for granted. That being the case, you have to remember when you're doing this, you have others who are doing it a little differently. But that doesn't mean that it should stop you from doing it. I've said this on the show before, and I'll say it again. I easily could have pod faded 2 or 3 years ago. I could have just unplugged all of this, kept the equipment, and just, if I felt like I wanted to talk about something, I could talk about it and keep it for myself. But I also realize that at times there are conversations that I get to have or have been able to have, and adding a microphone between me and presenting that conversation have made those points more beneficial in doing so. So I'm loving what this has done for me. And I'm going to be clear and also saying this. Podcasting is not therapy. Please do not get those two confused. At times people look at it as, well, I mean, I'm on a podcast, I'm just talking out my thoughts. But sometimes talking out your thoughts in an open forum is not the same as talking out your thoughts to someone that can give you guidance and direction and is licensed in that skill set. Like, and that's another thing. I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna go into the next topic. Everyone that does a podcast is not licensed to be a podcaster. There's no such thing as I got a certification in podcasting. I didn't. I will tell you all and be upfront and honest in saying everything that I learned or picked up was either from groups, from resources, from talking to people, from being very receptive and open to knowing what I was getting into. So I never at any point want to seem or feel like I take those things for granted, because I don't. But it's good that Joe is giving the creators that space and that openness to be who they are and share what they feel. And also, I want to share this because I don't want to forget. I did listen to, and I didn't listen to the first episode, but I did listen to the second episode of Girl, I Guess. And I have to say, I enjoyed those shows just as much as the Joe Budden's podcast as well. But I wanted to get that. No shameless plug, just talking, because as a community, I think it's ignored and not presented enough. It's not presented clear enough that the podcast community pretty much is all they have. Like, all they have is each other and their content. Like, every single episode that I have recorded, my flash drive or my, ability to hold these is all I got. Like, it's literally me just going in and getting the information. Like, I even had this conversation with a friend of mine who has her own podcast. Shout out to Kay King. She, is helping people with doing podcasts. And it's, putting the format together, being confident, like knowing those both are keys and one being more, like it was like we were getting our points and adamant in what we looked at, but it's like we both were looking at it the same way. You have to be confident to get on a microphone and talk. Like, if I come on a microphone and I'm, hey y'all, what's going on? This BT, we doing another podcast. I hope y'all like what y'all hear. No one would listen to this. So that's why I have to give my best effort to you all as listeners, and I also have to be available to give that best effort. Random tangent, rant, rave, whatever. But I wanted to talk about that before I get as we continue the stories that have been going on in the tech world. Instagram is adding the recently deleted section to protect your posts from hackers. The feature adds an extra step if you want to permanently delete a post. This is going to be an eye-opener, and this is going to be helpful for a lot of people based on what they want to have available on their profile. Instagram's latest feature could help you protect your post history from hackers. The app is adding a new recently deleted feature which adds an extra step before a post can be permanently removed from your account. The feature is similar to the recently deleted folder in the Photos app on iOS. Delete a post and it will appear in a separate section of your profile for 30 days. These posts aren't viewable to anyone else, but they'll remain visible to the account owner in case you have second thoughts and want to restore them. According to Instagram, it's also an additional safeguard against hackers who frequently target Instagram accounts. People whose accounts are hacked often have all of their posts removed before they can regain access, which can be a devastating loss for those who rely on their Instagram presence for their business or to keep track of family photos. With the addition of recently added, Instagram says it will require users to verify their identity via text or email before they're able to restore a post or remove it permanently. Emphasis on this point because I want to tell people this, and and they talk about it in this article. So I'm going to continue reading because they are ahead of me on what I'm about to share. The extra step is essentially a form of two-step verification for purging posts from the app, but importantly, not a substitute for using two-factor authentication to protect your account in the first place. Please protect your platforms and protect your apps. A lot of people do not use TikTok because TikTok does not have two-factor authentication. I 100% respect that. And I understand that, and that's not what this article will share. I'm not going to read the rest of this article because I want to talk about this. And this is, this is probably going to be that podcast about just gems and jewels because it's very important to get these things understood. And if I'm a little excited about where I'm going with this, if you know, you know. Any app or any program that you use that has the ability to set up two-factor authentication, please use it. Don't limit yourself just to Face ID to log in and access pages or profiles or accounts. Adding an added layer to an app can help you keep things that you want private. Everyone does not need to see or have access to your page publicly. I understand 4,000,000% why people have private pages on social media, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Snapchat, whatever app you speak of. All of that being said, please, if your page is private or public, still set a two-factor authentication for login. There are different programs and different apps that you can set up on your phone to do the authentication for you. I tell this, and I think I bring this up every couple of months because it is a very important thing that we don't use. This is to this day why I lost 2 Facebook pages, because I relinquished the ability of my two-factor authentication. Huge accountability, tremendous lesson. Also an alarming thing to remember or look at, if you go to anyone's Instagram page and they have less than 10 photos, but the page just looks very shady. If all of those photos were added within, like, in the same time frame, that page is likely a scam page. Like, no one is going to post 6 photos all posted 6 hours ago. That ain't it. Please do not fall for those. I wanted to make sure I got that out of the way. Elon Musk is next on the conversation. Elon broke the limit of Clubhouse. So Clubhouse, each room, and anyone who has Android, you can skip ahead for a couple seconds, but I'm going to talk about Clubhouse. A lot of people, matter of fact, no, we're not going to do that. If you have an Android, be patient. Clubhouse is going to be on Android, I would say, within the next 2 or 3 months. I talked about that before, but I'm really wanting people to understand it's coming. If you use or are part of Clubhouse, everyone knows the setup with Clubhouse who uses it. It's when you open the app based on who you're friends with or who you follow or are following you, you're going to have access to different rooms or different hall. Like, when you are scrolling to look of where you want to talk or check things out, that's the hallway. Once you find a room or find a conversation that might be of interest to you, when you go into that room, you're in. You don't have to. Now, when I say you're in as in you are going to be there as an audience member. You may be able to be invited on stage. You may not. No big deal. But even with all of those options being the case, you're then put in a position where you can leave that room and go to another room. And some people repeatedly have rooms open to get a clubhouse. Elon just made an account, probably, I'm almost wanting to say within the last 2 weeks. And I'm semi freestyling with that, but just hear me out, and we'll make this make sense. And I think everybody wants to be Elon Musk, because I don't believe any of these people are Elon Musk. They're saying this is him, but I don't know. Official Elon Musk. See, I don't trust that, because I'm gonna assume it's the one that was made on the 29th, and it looks like the only person he's following is the person that nominated him into Clubhouse. But anyway, he has 170,000 people following him. He opened a room that reached the capacity of how many people could be in a room, which is 5,000. They were there to, a lot of people shared this information and content. Some of them recorded it. Some people had it playing where you could listen to it in other rooms. Some people had it where it was live streamed through YouTube. He even broke down and he interviewed the Robinhood CEO. And that was his official page, because it was, like I said, it was what I figured. So he's been on the app since Friday. Just give that time to think. Give that time to really be processed. He got on the app Friday, and he's already gotten this many followers and views in that time period. Elon Musk, who's the founder of Tesla, SpaceX, and many other companies, has mastered the art of using Twitter to harness fans and promote himself and his interests across as wide an audience as possible. Using some of that momentum, last night he made a vocal debut on a newer platform, Silicon Valley's hottest startup right now, Clubhouse, which lets people join rooms to listen in on conversations between hosts and guests. Musk, fielding a series of mostly softball questions, used the session to talk to his base on topics ranging from space travel, colonies on Mars, crypto, AI, and COVID-19 vaccines. He managed to bust a few myths about his alternative positions on several subjects, and at times managed to sound far more nuanced than his meme-propelled trolling Twitter feed. For example, in contrast to previous expositions on the viability of living on Mars, Musk didn't paint a rose-colored vision in his conversation. Instead, he said that while Mars exploration is a worthwhile effort to be humankind alive, life would be hard. The last quarter of the interview then veered off radically when Vlad Tenev, CEO of Robinhood, was brought in, apparently by Musk, but there was a hint of coordination between the scenes. Behind the scenes. Might help if I can get myself caught up. I'm sitting there like struggling. Suddenly, Musk turned interviewer and had Tenev unpack what had happened in the last week with the Wall Street bets debacle. Some saw the Clubhouse room as a massive PR stunt by the VC firm Andreessen Horowitz, which, in addition to being a big investor in Robinhood and Clubhouse, backed startups that work with Musk's companies. This is an article you'll want to read to kind of get the in-depth breakdown of what his talk was about in coming into Clubhouse. I do want to say it's an eye-opening. It's very interesting or very eye-opening too when you look at how one person can come on an app and it makes a big impact. What's even more interesting about it is if you go to Elon Musk's Twitter page, all he has in his bio is the word Bitcoin. Do with that knowledge as you will. He has it in his bio. I think the CEO of Twitter has it in his bio. These folks know something. They're not just talking about it and just going to put it up there just as a random joke like, hey, Bitcoin, figure it out. But it's really something that I am looking at to see where and how this all came about. I shared the other article because it then shows how Elon Musk was able to prove how in depth a voice can be on a platform. Now, to put it into perspective, because I was on this room as well. Ron Artest was invited by his brother Daniel Artest, who I am following and keeping up with his podcast, as well as he's in he's in the NBA on CH group as well. Ron Artest was on Clubhouse. There might have been a good couple hundred people in the room that were able to listen, but it was a very different dynamic, and it wasn't as huge. Ron Artest won an NBA championship. Ron Artest kind of was the early stage of understanding or realizing the impact of mental health. We will always talk about Ron Artest or Meta World Peace as it's referenced now with the Malice in the Palace. He even made an announcement about a new app that he has coming out. I think I was able to get the beta and try it out. So I mean, they're doing something as well. And I hate to say it this way, but they're not Elon Musk, and that sucks. It should be an across the board thing, but a lot of times it's what's seen by whom. I'll put it in this manner, and I'll leave it be. If it was LeBron James opening a room on Clubhouse, you would have a much different atmosphere. Rest in peace. If Kobe opened a room on Clubhouse, do you realize how many people would be in that room just to talk to him? And it just doesn't come together for me a little bit, because everyone who's anyone has the information and the news and the piece to present it as to how important or how volatile it is to help us all become better. But everyone was in just shock and awe when Elon Musk went on Clubhouse at 1:00 in the morning Eastern time. I want to add that as well. I don't know if I mentioned that in the other article, but it presented something, or gave somewhat of an idea that you're now being given this space to practically turn an app into a semi podcast almost. Like it's even bigger, because who comes in the room and what the person comes in with sharing is where it becomes even more of a big deal. So that's all I wanted to say on that. But I thought it was just a huge topic, or a big thing when they were sharing how he came on, and it was like everybody wanted to be in that room, or people were able to find ways to get the audio from the room and play it through other rooms. So yeah, one company that I mentioned from that last article was Robinhood, and this should not sound like it sounds, but it is what it is. Robinhood has been done or considered as the ghetto of stock markets on the internet. And if you do or don't remember, we're going to talk about it from this article. Robinhood got a lot of flack. they haven't really been doing well in the last couple of months, and we'll go into this a little bit. I'm hoping they talk about both incidents that happened, because they also had another incident that happened that kind of screwed them over a little bit too. But in the Google Play Store, they have gotten back to a 1-star rating. The app is that bad. Investment app Robinhood has plummeted back down to a 1-star rating on Google Play, thanks to a flood of thousands of new negative reviews. The latest low rating comes just days after Google salvaged the app's rating by removing nearly 100,000 reviews, following a flood of negative ratings after Robinhood blocked purchases of popular stocks from Reddit's r/Wall Street bets like GameStop or AMC last week. Google confirmed to The Verge at the time that it was actively removing negative reviews on the app. The review roller coaster for Robinhood's rating has been nearly as up and down as GameStop's stock price. When users began to review bomb the app last Thursday, Robinhood reached a 1-star rating with nearly 275,000 reviews. Google then removed nearly 100,000 of those reviews, putting the app back at a 4-star average with roughly 180,000 views. But as of the publication of this article, Robinhood has returned to a new high of almost 305,000 reviews, along with a 1.1 star rating. Google Play Store policies do explicitly ban reviews that are intended to manipulate the rating of an app. The company had previously removed earlier Robinhood reviews because it felt that they violated that policy. A Google spokesperson did confirm to The Verge that the current reviews, which were not the ones deleted in last week's purge, are compliant to Google's policies and won't be removed. The fact that people have that kind of power and can get a lot of the negative reviews are just they're not fans of the app and they can't access it. If you can't access something, you're going to give a negative review. Google trying to clean this up is similar to another company, which I won't talk about because I've already gone through enough with them. But we will just say that company was able to make some of their stores get better reviews than others for the sake of the business. Look at me growing up in PR world. But it's a real thing. Some places can manipulate the numbers or fudge the numbers to make it look like what they want it to look like. Our final story and stuff is the unique 2% of finding a iPod that actually has the ability to stream music from Spotify. While it went on to be eclipsed in importance by the iPhone, it's fair to say most people have a special place in their hearts for the iPod. It is in many ways the defining gadget of the mid-aughts. So what better way to honor its legacy than by giving it a new lease on life and modding it to work with a music streaming service? That's exactly what YouTuber Guy DuPont via Gizmodo did when he updated a 4th gen iPod Classic his mother-in-law gifted him to make it run Spotify. First of all, I like the interface. The interface for it is pretty cool because of the fact that, one, you've given an iPod the ability to access Wi-Fi. 2, you've given it the green screen look. So those two things alone, you got me sold. They do go on to state that it is not as simple as sideloading the app. The 2004 model DuPont hack doesn't come with a way to connect to the internet over Wi-Fi, so he had to essentially rebuild the device to let it access Spotify. He has given it the name S-Pod, which obviously is for Spotify. Features both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity, allowing it to connect to both wireless speakers and headphones, in addition to a color display and a 1000 milliamp battery. If you're an audio purist, you'll hate this next part. The headphone jack at the top of the device is for show and doesn't work. At the heart of the device is a $10 Raspberry Pi Zero W. There's also a motor that creates haptic feedback when using the click wheel. For charging the device, there's a micro USB port. While we would have preferred a USB-C connection, micro USB is definitely an improvement over the Apple 30-pin connector. Personally, I don't want a USB-C on an old device. Just my personal logic of opinion. All told, the components set him less than $100, coming in at $40. The most expensive part was the color screen DuPont used to replace the iPod's original display. Part of the reason it was so expensive was that most manufacturers don't make displays that small anymore, since even the smallest smartphone screen is bigger than anything that came with a click wheel iPod. The fact the device worked so well came down to a bit of luck. DuPont found a decade-old Hackaday article that details how one of the connectors inside the iPod worked that allowed him to make the click wheel play nice with all the other components. The programming powering the S-Pot is a mix of software DuPont wrote himself and an app called Spotify, which allows a Raspberry Pi computer to access the streaming service through the Spotify Connect API. Blah, 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 all that. DuPont has uploaded a detailed overview to Hackaday. He's also in the process of uploading the software he wrote for the project to GitHub, which if any of you are coders or true creators in that tech world, get a GitHub account if you do not have one already. I thought it was cool. Would I be willing to go back and buy a classic iPod for it? No. It's a fun yet creative concept because of the cost and the likelihood. Like, there's a slim to no chance we would see or expect anyone to have one of these like in regular rotation. So just something to think about, and something that kind of came to the forefront with this. Music sesh. I have not really been playing any new songs. I've been more attached to some classics. I did find a couple of new playlists. Before I forget, Victoria Monet has a new song called FUCK. It is an abbreviation, I promise you. Check that out if you have not done so. I found a playlist called Reading Music, which is pretty cool. And Bobby Sessions and Lecrae have made a song called Made Away. It's kind of become my new motivation song. And I play that song very frequently, very often. And that is pretty much all of my music rotation that I've had recently. I found a meditation music, a focus music, a relaxing music playlist, and I also found a new song by Wale. I'm not going to play it for copyright purposes. And I think I might have talked about it already on the last podcast, but it was called Good Vibes by Wale. So definitely check those out if you have not done so. If you have Spotify, that's the avenue that I've been taking. I know that everyone's anti-Spotify for different reasons, but I kind of stayed in the safe streaming lane with them. All right, Ass of the Week. So our first Ass of the Week is unintentional, but it happened. I did talk about this play earlier where Bradley Beal scores a 3. After he scores a 3, Brooklyn, which I almost could give this Ass of the Week to Steve Nash a little bit too, because they could have advanced the ball. Didn't. We'll read this article and then I'm gonna unpack this a little bit. Brooklyn Nets swingman Joe Harris is putting their Sunday night loss against the Washington Wizards on him. Harris chose the worst moment to commit his first and only turnover of the evening as his awful inbound pass ultimately caused the Nets the game. The 29-year-old shooter explained after the match that his last-second blunder was a dumb mistake and didn't immediately realize the Nets had a timeout to spare. So this is the reverse Chris Webber role. Just FYI. Harris's turnover was part of the crazy last few seconds of the game. With the Nets up by 5 with over 10 seconds to go, they let Bradley Beal step into an uncontested three-pointer, which cut the lead to a basket. Harris then brought the ball out and was trying to look for Kevin Durant on the inbound play. Unfortunately for Harris, he passed the ball right into Garrison Matthews, who then tossed the ball to Russell Westbrook for the game-winning three-pointer. The night ended rough for the 29-year-old, who was having a monster evening before his late game gaffe. With James Harden sitting out the game due to a bruised thigh, Harris stepped up big time and erupted for a season-high 30 points, including 8 of 13 from 3, providing ample support to Kevin Durant, who finished with 37 points. After the game, Kyrie Irving made sure to remind Harris and Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot that the loss wasn't on them despite their crucial errors. Luwawu-Cabarrot had a chance to grab the lead back for the Nets after the Westbrook triple, but the 25-year-old missed the layup with just 0.7 seconds left. Tough break for Joe Harris as the Nets they dropped to 13-9 after their upset loss to the 4-12 Wizards. I almost want to put that on like the teammates too, because he's not the only person who has that ability to call a timeout. The coach could have easily said, timeout, advance the ball. I think Joe Harris, and then you have, I think, as was talked about, how the players move during a inbound play is important too, because it's almost like you have to have the connection with the teammate between the inbound person and the recipient of the pass, in knowing, hey, if I'm right here, the ball needs to come to this area. And if they're going in different directions or it's a mismark, it can make for a bad scenario, which obviously is what we got here. So like I said, I gave it to Joe, but Joe wasn't unintentional for being ass of the week. I mean, it was this one turnover in the game, but you got to give him credit. He had 30 points. So I don't put it on him heavily, but then it's also like just the Nets breaking down at the end of that game became a huge blunder on so many levels. Our other ass of the week is Chad Wheeler. I almost did not want to mention his name because what frustrates me the most with this article or with this story is an NFL team is going to pick him up, which is just, I don't even know how to describe this. But he is facing charges of felony domestic violence. He was waived by the Seattle Seahawks. He was arrested Friday on suspicion of felony domestic violence after an incident at a residence in a Seattle suburb, police and court records say. The incident began at around 9:44 p.m. Pacific time in Kent, Washington, according to Kent Police Department Assistant Chief Jared Kasner. Warning before I go any further with reading this could be a very graphic and descriptive article, so if anyone younger is listening to this or you are not in a space to want to listen to this, you can move forward about 2 minutes. According to court documents, prosecutors said Wheeler viciously attacked the victim in her bedroom, strangling her at times with both hands. Wheeler is also accused of strangling the victim twice until she lost consciousness. The victim texted friends, her family, and Wheeler's father to call 911, according to the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, and police officers who arrived forced entry after hearing her screaming inside. An officer attempted to use a taser to subdue Wheeler with little effect. Wheeler faces charges of first-degree domestic violence assault, domestic violence, unlawful imprisonment, and resisting arrest. He will enter a plea at his arraignment. He will enter a plea of his arraignment scheduled for February 9th. He wrote on Twitter that events happened over the weekend that transpired from a manic episode. I don't know if they have it in here because there's one part of it why he becomes the ass of the week. I think what frustrates me about this is after he did what he did, he left her practically unconscious and went back to eating like his food or whatever. I think they were having dinner. And when she, when it was confirmed that she was conscious, or, came to, he then started to kind of feel bad because it was almost like he was trying to kill her. And anyone that knows me, even with what I've personally gone through, I am not a fan or do not condone violence whatsoever. You either talk it out or walk it out, one of the two. But physical is not the solution or the answer. It never is. And what was even more impactful about this is that this is a black woman that he was involved with. I'm not sure if this is his wife. This is his girlfriend. This was his girlfriend. If nothing else, I just hope that he does not take her back or whatever. Give me 1 sec. I'm just looking for the actual. Because they may or may not disclose her name. Give me 1 sec. He's 27 years old. He faces a standard sentencing range of roughly 9 to 12 years in prison. Wheeler's girlfriend was at the hearing with her arm in a sling. I don't think they gave her name. I'm sorry, my bad. I just hope that she's able to get out of this and being with him. That's like really it. And I just don't understand it. Even worse, the NFL, he was waived, but I just do not feel like he should. I'm personally in a position of he should not be able to play football at least for a year, if not 2 years. And I know that's probably me coming in with like the hammer of like, dang, you just not fair. And I'm like, no, you have to be able to put yourself in the space of realizing what happened. And that's just where I'm at about it. So I send nothing but positivity to her and her family. And like I said, he's a piece of shit. He's ass of the he's already an early candidate for ass of the year with doing this. Especially, in a climate and I keep using the term climate, especially in the time that we're in right now. Just that's all I'm gonna say about it. Our message to pass along today, because I've given so many gems. I don't think I have one, honestly, but the only thing that I'm going to say is stop capping. And I say that, I know I'm laughing about it, but I'm being serious. Imposter syndrome is real, number one. Number two, be more accountable to doing what you should be doing. Don't sit up here and make it like you got a whole lot going on and you don't. If you don't, you don't. You don't. You have nothing that you need to prove or put out there, or put on for anybody. And we do this, or we attempt this act and think it's cool when in reality it's not. And that's probably my message. That's really the message I want to give is, don't front. If you ain't got it, you ain't got it. Like, I think for me right now, I got what I have, but I'm still working on more, and I have ways to go. So I don't, I'm not here to sit here and make it like I'm living my best life, because I'm human. I have a lot of work to do. I think we all have a lot of work to do, but we have to be willing to do that work, which is very hard at times. And that's really the message that I want to share. Like I said, I shared a lot of messages throughout the show. I'm going to come back and I'm going to rotate back to this message again, because it is very, very key. Any programs, any devices you use, even down to your smartphones, do not make it so that your phone can automatically just open up when you turn it on. Set a passcode, set Face ID, set whatever you need to set on it so you can access your device. If it's not being said yet, but I hope Apple does it. I'm really hoping Apple goes back to Touch ID again. I think Touch ID was a better option, and it was a more convenient option. Like, I know I get a lot of people like, oh, but what about the home button? And that means the screen, we're not going to get as much screen. Apple's going to find a way to give you more screen. Stop tripping. It's not that serious. Like, I would rather have that and be able to get to things in a quicker manner than to sit there and like look at my screen and it's like, it's not going to open. And then I got to go through other options to get what I need to get. So just keep two-factor authentication and rotation. Your future will thank you later. Trust me. That is all I have today. I don't, hopefully I didn't rush through all the topics, but I did want to make sure I got everything out there about what we have going on. It's going to be a quick flip in recordings. I may take a week off. I don't know yet. I'm going to see how I feel. But I should be having a guest on this weekend. They have been a guest before, and it should be a fun show. They're actually going to be leading this show, so I will be impressed or intrigued to see how that plays about. But that is everything we have for this show. And until next time, this is The Past signing out. And y'all take it easy. You have made it to the end of yet another episode of the Past BT Pod. I hope you gained something or walked away with some worthwhile information, whether it was related to any of the information provided about sports, about music, about technology, or possibly my personal fave, the Pass the Message. We want you to come in with an open mind and an open heart and walk away with something that's going to benefit you and carry you through your day, through your week, through your month, through your life. And that's the main objective here on The Pass. So I hope you were able to receive that. If you are looking to get find a good place to host your podcast, you can check out buzzsprout.com. And if you're also looking to invest in a microphone, a lot of people have their angst or their differences towards it. But I'm currently using the Blue Yeti X, and I've been using it for a little over a year. And it's still to this day one of my best investments I've made. And if I always give this as my closing tip. If you are a creative and you have the space to create, do not do your least to give your best effort towards what you're good at doing. Until next time, y'all take it easy.